Hello my quilty friends, in today's video I'm going to show you how to make this super cute bunny table runner. Now I made it thinking I'd make it as a table runner, but I also think it would be great as a wall hanging. And if you'd like to see a video on how to turn it into a wall hanging, please leave a comment and let me know and I'll be sure to do that for you. But for now, let me show you how to make it as a table runner. To make the bunny table runner, you're going to need 3/4 yard contrasting fabrics, a 1/2 yard for the backing, a 1/4 yard for the binding, plus double-sided iron-on adhesive and a bunny template. So for the cutting instructions, it looks more confusing than it is. For the A fabric, we need to cut 2 pieces to make our bunnies, and they need to measure 6 inches by 10 inches, and then 1 piece for the background, which is 8.5 inches by 12.5 inches. Then out of our B fabric, we're going to cut 1 piece for the middle bunny, which is 6 inches by 10 inches, and then the 2 backgrounds at 8.5 inches by 12.5 inches. And then our C fabric is our borders, and we need 2 pieces at 2.5 inches by 24.5 inches and 2 pieces at 2.5 inches by 16.5 inches. And all this information is over on my website. I'll put a link down below. So the first thing we need is our bunny template, and if you're good at drawing, by all means draw your own bunny, or you can find a copy of my template free over on my website, and again I'll put a link down below where you can get all the details. So once you've got your template, print it out, and then we're going to cut around it. I've printed mine on card because I want to make a few of these, but paper's fine as well. Cardboard's just a little bit more durable. So now we're going to take our double-sided iron-on adhesive, and I like Heat and Bond Light Sewable. There's also an Ultra Hold, but Light Sewable is perfectly fine for this project. Then I'm just going to open it up. Now I'm just going to take my template and draw around it 3 times so we have 3 bunnies. Okay, so once we've got our 3 bunnies drawn, what I'm going to do is just cut them out roughly. So we're not cutting them out perfectly at this stage. We cut them out perfectly once they're ironed onto our fabric. Okay, now let's iron them onto our fabric. So now I've got my 3 pieces of fabric that I cut into 6 inches by 10 inch pieces, and then I'm going to flip them over so I've got the wrong side facing me. Take one of my bunnies that I traced and pop it on top and iron it on. So the side that's rough is the side that's the glue, and we'll iron that on there. And sorry, I forgot to mention, we draw on the paper side, the smooth side. So you might want to see if you can see your print underneath and place it so it's going to be sitting really nicely. I think that's going to look good. And then I'm going to press, which melts the glue and glues it on. And I'm just going to flip it over to the other side and just give it a light press on that side as well. And then I'm going to repeat this for my other 2 pieces of fabric and bunnies that I drew, making sure I'm pressing it onto the wrong side of the fabric, the glue side down. So once we've done that, just let them cool. They are a little bit hot, and then we're going to take our scissors, move that one over because that one is still super hot. And now we're going to cut out perfectly along our drawn line on all 3 bunnies. So I've cut out my 3 bunnies, and now I'm having a debate with Niels as to whether they should have tails. So we quickly made some little tails, and I'm really torn. I don't know if I prefer them plain or with the tail. So I've added the little tail onto the pattern, so you can decide what you're going to do. For now, I'm going to move on and have a think about what I'm going to do. So I'm going to set those aside. So then we're going to take our 8.5 by 12.5 pieces and place them so we've got the B piece, the A piece in the middle, and the B piece. And then we're going to sew them together. So I'm just going to place these 2 right sides together, line up the edges on all 3 sides, and I'll pop a few pins in. If you've got directional fabric, just make sure it's sitting up the way that you want it to be. And now let's sew that one together, and then all we'll do is then sew these two pieces together. So today I'm sewing with a Juki DX7 sewing machine that Juki Junkies have kindly loaned me because when we're going to be attaching our bunnies, we're going to applique, and we need to do a decorative stitch or a zigzag. So my TL won't do that, so I'm using this DX7 today. So I'm going to be stitching with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, stitch length 2, and I'm using wonderful confetti thread. Okay, so that machine is lovely. It just purred along. Now I'm just opening it up, taking my second piece and lining up those edges, making sure it's right sides together and my fabrics are still alternating, pinning and sewing just like we did. Coming off the very edge, cutting my thread. Now we're just going to press our fabrics towards the dark. Okay, so I've sewn my pieces together and I've pressed the seams towards the dark. Now I've taken my 2.5 inch by 24.5 inch strips and I'm going to sew them to the top and the bottom. So all I'll do is face them right sides together, pin along here and sew on both sides. So now I've sewn those on, what I'm going to do is press towards the C piece or the big long piece that we sewed on, and when you are sewing them, just make sure that the seams are being sewn down in the direction they were pressed. So now I press my seams towards the larger piece or the C fabric. Now all we're going to do is sew the two side pieces on that measured 2.5 inches by 16.5 inches. And we do exactly the same process we did when we sewed these longer top piece and bottom piece on. Okay, so now I'm just going to press it so that the seams are towards the longer piece. Okay, so now I've finished sewing the sides on and I've pressed the seams towards the larger piece. Now we're going to iron on our bunnies. So if we just turn over to the back, we've still got the paper on there. I'm just going to peel it off. And then that reveals the second layer of glue. And then when we press this or iron this, that melts the glue and it adheres it to our fabric. So we can either just work out roughly by eye where it's in the center here, or you could take a ruler. And I found about 1.25 inches from the bottom is about right. Then it's about 1.25 inches from the top, the ears. But you can just do it by eye. But then once you're happy with how it's sitting, then we're just going to press it really carefully so it doesn't move. So just with my hot iron, I'm carefully just applying heat, which will melt that glue. This heat and bond is amazing. I love working with it. And then what I'll do is I'll just measure and check these two and then press them as well. Another way we could quick check is grabbing a larger ruler and just placing it on the bottoms of the bunnies and just making sure that they're all just touching it, meaning that they're all straight along the bottom there. So that's looking pretty good to me. So now I'm just going to carefully press them. And I'd already removed the backing off the two white ones on my A fabric. So just making sure they're attached. And it's at this point that we would attach the tails. So we would make the little circles just like we did the bunnies, peel off the backing and attach them, and I would just measure to make sure they're nice and straight. So now what we're going to do is sew around the edge, which is a decorative stitch but will also help the applique stay to our table runner. So I'm going to stitch with a blanket stitch and change the settings to 3 and 3. You could also do this with a zigzag stitch or any decorative stitch you'd like, and if your sewing machine doesn't do any decorative stitches like my TL sewing machine, you could just stitch with a straight stitch and about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the shape. So now I'm just going to stitch very carefully along the edge of my shape, and the blanket stitch will stitch down and then across and then back and then down and across and back. But like I said, just do whatever stitch you'd like to. And I'll see you at the end when I'm finished. So now I've finished my table runner quilt top. Now what I need to do is baste it, quilt it and bind it, and I'll leave it up to you to do that with your preferred method. I think it turned out super cute. Don't forget you could always make extra bunnies and add on to it to make it longer if you'd like to. And I'm really happy with my blanket stitch. It did take a little bit of time, and my top tip is to go slow, but I think it turned out really super cute. So there we have my cute little bunny table runner. Now if I could change one thing, I think I would have double lined that white fabric, because you can see the darker fabric coming through. All I would have done is use my iron-on adhesive to iron on some white fabric to it, making it double layered. But other than that, I'm super happy with it. And if you've enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button, and even better, subscribe so you don't miss out on another video. And if you're looking for another Easter project, I've got this super cute bunny ears treat bag. I'll put the link up above for you. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.